Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are so glad that you can join us. I know many of you are listening in from afar, which is why we provide these free webinars, so parents and professionals alike can register for any of our free online events and have access to evidence-based updates explained by highly qualified expert presenters. We do host multiple webinars each month, so please visit our website at autism.org to view the schedule. And we continually add webinars. So if you're not on our email list, visit autism.org and click subscribe on the homepage to receive regular updates. To get instant news and events from ARI, you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. ARI also publishes an award-winning quarterly journal, the Autism Research Review International, or the ARRI. This quarterly journal helps you stay up to date with the latest research on autism spectrum disorder and is freely available online at arrionline.org. This webinar will be recorded and playback will be made available later today at autism.org/webinars and on our YouTube channel. No continuing education credits are provided for this talk, but free certificates of participation are available upon successful completion of a brief knowledge quiz following the webinar. And that quiz link will be available approximately an hour following the talk. These webinars are made possible by generous donor support, and you can visit autism.org to donate to this work. Now I'll pass it on to Dr. Edelson.
Yeah, hello. My name is Steve Edelson, and I'm the Chief Science Officer of the Autism Research Institute in San Diego. First, I would like to introduce Petra Dillman of the World Autism Organization, and she will share with you information about the WAO.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, everybody, or good morning, or good day, wherever you are joined us, or have you joined us from. And thank you. We, the Council and the members of the World Autism Organization, are grateful to the Autism Research Institute for having us regularly join them for selected webinars. Since its foundation in 1983, Autism Europe had had a vision that all people with autism, regardless of class, race, gender, or creed, are entitled to the benefits of diagnosis and appropriate education and lifelong support, and above all, to be treated with respect and dignity. To this end, Autism Europe prepared a Charter of Rights for people with autism, and in 1996, a written declaration on their rights was approved by the European Parliament. In 1998, Autism Europe, in response to growing requests from associations dedicated to the welfare of people with autism around the world, established the WAO as an international network on autism to provide a global response to the needs of people with autism and their families, and to promote the implementation of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Person with a Disability, as well as urging governments to implement the SDGs. People with autism have an indisputable right to live independently, for self-advocacy and involvement as far as possible in decisions affecting their life and their future, accessible and appropriate education, housing, assistance, care and support services, as well as sufficient income, freedom from fear, threat, and from abusive treatment. We, as persons with autism advocating for ourselves and parents advocating for our children with autism, with the contribution of professionals who share our views, pledge ourselves to press for these rights to be enhanced and enforced by appropriate legislation worldwide. And this brings me to Namibia, where I am from. It is really happening in Namibia that people with disabilities and with autism are being involved and included in many of the legislative acts that are being prepared or updated. And the UNCRPD, that's the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the People with Disabilities. The objectives and functions can be looked up on our constitution, which is accessible through the website. I'm Petra Dillman, mother to Michael, who's 36 now, and a non-speaking autistic. I've been involved in autism for the past 35 years and have been on the WAO Council since 2000, when the first AGM, I think, was held in Glasgow. Furthermore, I'm the founder and director of the Autism Association of Namibia, and I'm very pleased and happy to announce that the 6th World Autism Organization Congress will take place in Windhoek from the 3rd to 5th of November next year in 2026. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Petra. Let me now say a few words about the Autism Research Institute, or ARI. ARI was founded by pioneering researcher and parent advocate Dr. Bernard Remland in 1967. This is our 58th year of monitoring, supporting, and conducting research. More specifically, ARI funds research studies, sponsors an international support group network with over 260 member groups, as well as a science network, sponsors think tank meetings. In fact, we just had one at the United Nations earlier this month. It was the first autism think tank ever at the UN. We also publish original articles and books and produce videos, webinars, and we do quite a bit more. So you can learn more about us at www.autism.org. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Olga Bogdashina. I hope I pronounced that okay. She is a co-founder of the International Autism Institute and has authored 9 books on autism, including books on sensory perceptual issues, language and communication, and autism and spirituality. She founded the First Day Center for Autistic Children in Ukraine over 30 years ago and has lived and breathed autism since then. So will you join me in welcoming Dr. Bogdashina?
Thank you. It's okay to say Olga, just Olga.
Easier.
Yeah, okay. Before I begin, I have to clarify 3 points, right? The first is that today I will be focusing on narrow autism, if you like autism before DSM-5. I will explain, because now in DSM-5 it is autism spectrum disorder, or a group of disorders, autistic disorders, right? But I will focus on classic autism, or Kana autism, if you like, which includes what was called low functioning and high functioning autistic people, and Asperger's syndrome also, from the past. And this is the first point I wanted to make. The second, I am a strong believer, like many other researchers, that main criteria, diagnostic criteria, or autism criteria, are based on sensory perception. And my own research showed that this social communication problems, they come from differences in sensory perception. And today I want to show this to you. And the third, this is just diagram, right? It's how senses work and how they lead to secondary problems, and then autistic features of language development. So, and now we've got more and more research papers that shows that this is correct, that we cannot say that language and communication are sort of the original cause of autism. No, they are caused by sensory perceptual differences. And the third point I wanted to make is personal, because 37 years ago, I was quite a successful linguist and head of the department in the university. And because my first qualifications were linguistics and psychology. But 37 years ago, look at this baby. How could this little philosopher, little professor, I think, look at his face. They told me that he was unmanageable, hopeless, and I was offered a placement for him in special institution. That's why I decided that I will shift my attention to autism studies, and I did. So my next qualification was autism studies, and he was my inspiration, if you like. He was the meaning of whatever I do. It is him now, my son. He is 37 now. He was born 37 years ago, and he didn't talk till he was 7. Yes, he was very difficult, but so low functioning, non-verbal, all sort of, screaming and behaviors, certain behaviors, and okay, but not a word, not even ma, nothing. And I remember I was praying every time. I wasn't a religious person, but at the time I was praying, please, please start talking. Please, I will help you. I will tell you about this world. I will teach you, but please help me help you. Just start talking. Never, I always think what you wish for. He started at 7. Echolalia mostly. And now I say, shut up, will you? Because sometimes he's talking nonstop. Again, echolalic. He cannot express his feelings. He cannot tell me a lot, but still he's talking nonstop. He enjoys it. He loves to be with people. So this is my third point, the most important point for me for today. Today we will talk about communication and language in autism, one of the core diagnostic criteria. Several questions. Do individuals with autism communicate? Yes, they do. Because in the past, at least, it was believed that those who withdraw in themselves, they are not interested. No, they do communicate. Non-verbal people do communicate. What language do they use? Because I want to show you that they have autistic languages, not one, because different groups have different autistic language. And these are their native languages. And what should we do to establish meaningful communication with them? I will try to show you what from research and from practice. So non-verbal communication. Non-verbal people also communicate. By the way, it is my favorite group of people, perhaps because my son was non-verbal, but still I find them fascinating. They are so unusual. And this is the first person I want to give you an example of non-verbal communication. This is Lucy Blackman from Australia, a very clever, intelligent woman, non-verbal woman. She wrote this book, Lucy's Story. And this is from her book. Now I will ask you a question. What was Lucy communicating? And I will give you the situation from this book. I was sitting on the potty on Huminda's kitchen floor because I wanted. So the question is, what was Lucy communicated? What did she want when she came to the kitchen with the potty and sat on it? So think, if you don't know the answer, perhaps you don't, she wanted something to eat. This was her communication. Why? Yes, for outsiders, for us, right? We wouldn't sort of, why it's strange. There is nothing strange about it because her babysitter, when she started working with her, and she started toilet train her as well. So she bribed Lucy to sit on the potty and gave her food. So next time when she wanted to eat something, she communicated this sitting on the potty. I want to eat. Give me something to eat. I think it is very clever. I find nonverbal people, they are absolutely very different intelligence. They are more autistically intelligent than the rest of the autistic people. Or let us take verbal communication as an example. This is minimally verbal. It's echolalic verbal. This is from Naoki Higashida's book. The girl with autism approached her classmates and said, all of us. They discussed it, of course, and they interpreted it as she wants to join in with us. Of course, they were wrong. Because this girl she could only say these 3 words, all of us. But in fact, she wanted to find out when tomorrow, when will they go to the park? The teacher made an announcement that tomorrow all of us are going to the park. She wanted to know when it will happen tomorrow. But the only available words for her were all of us. This is just an example that sometimes if people don't know particular person, they would misinterpret a lot of communication with them. And to underline, non-autistic people are often puzzled by this odd communication, right? I gave you 2 examples. But however, autistic children may be equally puzzled by their non-autistic communicative partners. So it is misunderstanding is mutual. And that's why it is so important to learn languages and ways we communicate and meet in the middle. So in order to communicate successfully, we need shared experiences and shared knowledge. I hope you agree with me here. Shared tool of communication, that is language. Why do we need shared experiences? Look at this and shared knowledge. Look at cartoon characters, right? They are discussing this object, the ball in front of them. Yes, the experiences with this object were a bit different. For one, it was playing football. For the other, it was playing with the ball on the beach. But still, they're quite close, right? So it gave them the opportunity to make communication possible. But communication is impossible if there is no shared knowledge, no shared experiences. The same characters, but their sensory perceptual experiences are very different. One perhaps non-autistic, right? For him, again, it was football. But for the other, his perception of the world is so different. The communication is impossible, right? Perhaps they will find a way, but still, this is so important to understand each other's experiences. Where does the shared knowledge come from? It's all started with sensations. Sort of there are stimuli around us, we experience sensations, and we interpret these sensations. But there are 2 equal ways to interpret them: via verbal, given a label, or sensory. And here, 2 ways. All people have capacities of these 2 ways, but for some, one of these becomes dominant. For example, in neurotypical development, the dominant side of this interpretation is a verbal one, while for sensory or literal, right, interpretation is dominant for autism. This is the difference. We all have these interpretations, but one of them dominant. I want to give you an example what it is like literal, what I mean literal. When you see something or hear something without understanding what it is, and not because you don't understand, because you is not involved in this verbal interpretation. Like, look at this. This is verbal, neurotypical development. These are 6 creatures, right? And they are different by color, perhaps by smell, by movements, by patterns. But all these 6 creatures go through one slot, right? And we call them cats, because these are cats. What will happen in autism? In autism, these creatures cannot be all these creatures. They are very different. This one with this stripes, this one with that. You see, any detail changes everything. And that's why each of these creatures have their own slot, right? Because this literal interpretation. If all these sensory sensations are different, smell, movement, colors, and whatever, it cannot be the same thing. And for you, just try this. To feel what it is like to be literal. First, it will be very difficult for you. I ask you now to read the colors, not the words, but the colors, starting with green, yellow, red, black. Can you do it quite quickly or not? I will make it easier for you. This is easy, isn't it? Why? Because you don't understand the meaning of this. And that's why you will find it much, much easier. This is literal sensory perception, right? Literal. You see the colors, not the meaning. The same like with these cats. And for those autistic individuals who are at the stage of literal perception, verbal words, they are like these colors. They have no meaning. They are meaningless sound patterns. And sometimes they serve as auditory toys to play with. These are just a few examples. Tito, nonverbal young man, very, very intelligent. I did not have the faintest idea that the words should mean anything. They were just patterns of sounds to me. Wonderful sounds. And Donna Williams, she was verbal, right? But when she was younger, when she was a child, that's what she says. When I was a kid, words were sound, like the TV, like crumpled paper, like water, like gravel. They didn't have a use. They were just there, just like colors on the letters. And that is why those who live with autistic children, I say children, but I mean adult children as well, like my son at 37, to understand the mind of a child or adult who is completely nonverbal, you must leave the world of thinking and words. Try it. Just forget that you know words, that you are verbal. For the majority of people, it will be very difficult. But for those autistic individuals, for nonverbal individuals, this is their native language, like thinking in sensory images, whether they are visual or auditory or smell and so on and so forth. Try to imagine a land of sensory-based thoughts. For example, when I give training, I always ask to imagine something using only one sense of smell or touch and whatever. How will this world look like? How will it feel like? It is quite challenging to do it. Does it mean that this sensory-based images and whatever, they are not words, but they are. These sensory-based languages, they have their own sensory words. And these words, like language, right? It is sort of verbal language and non-verbal language. And this is the example for you. These sensory words are very literal, and they are based on, again, on sensory perceptions. Donna Williams, for example, when she was younger, developed two words for this creature, this cat, for example. And one of this was fush, because it was defined by the sound made by your hand when you were stroking the creature, this cat, for example. And the other was brook, which defined it by the noise which came out of the cat when it was stroked, like purring, right? So it is logical, isn't it? These are, I want to give you this idea that sensory words, sensory languages do exist, and they are quite sophisticated, like for one creature, 2 words. But they are very, very literal, because everything is there's something, any tiny change, and it is a different object or person or plant altogether. For example, if a child remembers a dog as a small white Pekingese in a blue collar, any other canine, even a Pekingese in a red collar, cannot be identified as a dog. It is so different. You remember all these 6 creatures, cats, which each of them have their own slot one word, one object. It is very important to know and to remember when we are teaching children, right, or working with children, giving them objects and giving the names, labels for this object. For example, we introduce this object and we say, look, this is a ball. And the child we work with, yes, as I say, they are very clever. He or she will remember it's a ball. The next day, we will bring this object and we will say, look, this is a ball. It isn't a ball, I'm sorry. For the child, it isn't a ball. And by the way, again, it is very logical, isn't it? Because it is smaller, it is heavier, despite the size, smaller size, and perhaps it smells differently, perhaps it bounces differently, and so on and so forth. Or if this is a spoon, then this is not a spoon because it is very different. Yes, if we know this, we will know how to work with them. And there is, in autism, it is later transition of dominance from sensory to a verbal plane of comprehension. And only very few individuals, for example, Donna Williams, they remain fluent in both languages. That's what she says. In my case, I remember this transition from the system of sensing into the system of interpretation began to happen not in the first days or weeks of neurotypical development, as usual, but at around 3 years old. It was not until around the age of 10 that the system of interpretation, verbal interpretation, eventually came to be relied upon. Even then, it was taken not as a first and primary language, but as a secondary one, and much later as one of two equal but different primary systems. The confirmation from research on the cognitive level, Professor Alan Snyder from Australia, he sees autism as the state of delayed acquisition of concepts. Right? If this is a cat, this cannot be a cat, and what so on. And the main arguments are, we are not conscious of the details. Instead, we often see what we expect to see, or what is closer to our mental representation. For example, look at this picture, right? When I always ask, well, what is it? Yes, many people will say this is a triangle, but unfortunately, there is no triangle. See, this non-autistic people often see something that is not there. Instead, there are these three black things. We see from inside. We do not study anything. We are very quick to give a label, to define. And that is why, if we know that this is delayed concept acquisition, that autistic people need more and more practice with this. Because this is advice from Temple Grandin. For the person with autism to understand the concept of street, they have to see more than one street. Autistic thinking is specific to general. To learn a concept of dog or street, I had to see many specific dogs or streets before the general concept could be formed. So that is why it's not good enough to show autistic nonverbal children, for example, pictures of this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a cow, while talking about animals, right? And the child, yes, they are very clever. The child will learn and he will point cat, dog, cow, right? And then you take the child outside, for example, to the farm, or to the park, and there will be dogs. And the farm, they will be cows. The child won't be able to identify them. He wouldn't understand how this flat sort of lines drawn can be something that is running around and barking, for example. That is why, see, we have to provide as many experiences as possible with the same object, or like street and dog and so on and so forth. And this is from Tito, nonverbal young man. practice, exposure, and experience with objects and around objects matter a great deal. The more they practice it, the more we attract the attention that this is a toothbrush. You go somewhere and somebody has a toothbrush. It is also a toothbrush. In different situations, different objects can have different the same labels. This is the idea. In order to communicate successfully, we have to speak the same languages. Again, I want to repeat, they have very different languages. And language is a system of symbols, words, and methods, rules of combination of these symbols, used by a section or group of people. And main functions are communicative and cognitive. Now we can see that the many autistic people, I do mean, especially nonverbal and, level 2 as well, they think with images. And that is why cognitively their language is also very different. And these are the main autistic languages: visual, spatial. Sometimes people ask, spatial is not necessarily visual. It's difficult to explain. It's like patterns and structures. And I can't explain. I've got special thinking, right? When I can see, say, my book before I even start writing it, and no, there are no words, no visual images. I can't explain it, but I just know where this will go, where that will go. It's difficult to explain, but anyway. Auditory images, and here I don't mean verbal, this is a ball, listen to this. No, auditory language is, these are sound we are surrounded with. For example, I put this mug on the table, and the sound it produces. Many autistic, nonverbal, or especially individuals are very good in auditory language. For example, my son, I can tell you, he can be in his bedroom and I am in the kitchen downstairs. By the sound I do things, he knows what I am doing. He can comment, he knows what I am cooking or what I'm doing, washing up or whatever. He knows this auditory language. Tactile through touch, kinesthetic through movement, and olfactory, smell. Visual language is just an illustration. Those who think with pictures, right, Temple Grandin, right? They are visual thinkers, and they have this visual inner language. And that's why, like Temple Grandin, when I talk to other people, I translate my pictures into stock phrases or sentences. I have on tape in my head. Sort of, again, this is translation from her visual autistic language into the second language, verbal language. But what is very important, not all autistic people think in pictures. Because Temple Grandin, her book was so popular, Thinking in Pictures, her first edition. In second edition, she said already that there are other languages, not only visual. And that people started using pictures with autistic children at school, these visual timetables and so on and so forth. But not all autistic people think in pictures. And for some, these pictures, especially those whose visual perception is distorted or fragmented, for example, right? Or unreliable. Anyway, they hate it. They are more confused when we show them pictures. For example, Donna Williams. I learned sound pattern and the feel of words in my mouth and sound pattern in my ears, but without gestural signing to link experiences to the blah blah, then the interpretation was lost. Unlike Temple, I do not think in pictures. I imagine and think primarily in feel, movement, kinesthetic, and via acoustics made by the object when struck. I visualize like a blind person. Just while I'm talking, please try to imagine what it is like. For me, it is very easy. You know why? Because I can't talk without my hands. If I do, I know it is embarrassing, and some people are irritated by this, but I can't. Just tie me up, and I will go silent. I won't be able to talk. These movements, hand movements, right, help me to talk, to get my words out, and I do. That's why I understand Donna so much when she writes about it. So auditory language, as I said already, it's not about words, it's about the sounds object produce, and they give the information of somebody with auditory language of what is going on around him. Tactile language, it is touch, through touch, learning through touch. You can see this young boy, he's from my school, he was 5, nonverbal, and he didn't blink when the picture was taken. That's how he sees, how he works at school, how he does everything with his eyes closed, through touch. He's not blind, far from it, no. But if you know that this sensory integration, like trying to use several channels, sensory channels, it is very difficult for many autistic individuals because, see, they can use one channel at a time. Like for this boy, it is tactile touch. If they switch on another channel, they are confused. It is too much. It's monoprocessing. It is like compensation or strategy to address their problems, like inability to filter out information. And kinesthetic language, it is language through movement. They think through, sometimes, you give directions or instruction to the child, and the child start fidgeting. You think fidgeting, right? It looks like the child is fidgeting. But actually, this child translates what you are saying into his language. And it's important to know, because sometimes we stop them. And this is, again, from Donna Williams. The linking of words with sensory experience means that if I hear the word shoe, I link this with the sound it makes being swacked on the floor. Or if I hear a picture, I re-experience running my fingers around its frame, the cold of its glass, and the sound it makes being tapped. See, Donna used the several sensory languages, sensory-based languages. If I hear the word biscuit, I re-experience the crunch and the feeling of it as I ate it. This is just the description of these sensory-based languages. And that is why they learn better with concrete information, whether it is visual, auditory, tactile, or through movements. It's important to remember. Choose the method of instruction to match the person's inner language. Not all autistic individuals are visual thinkers. My son isn't, so there was problem one day at school because of this. When it was school policy, so he had to take this picture with him. No, the end of the story was very sad. And teach them a range of strategies for memorizing and retrieving information to make stronger connections between sensory words, their native language, and verbal language. For example, if the child is tactile and holding, say again, I don't know, again, a ball, connected ball, this is a ball, and then the sound and the feeling on his palm, he will remember this, and he will connect this sensory word and the verbal label. But of course, there are translation problems, right? Because sensory-based and verbal languages are different. Because in order to communicate their thoughts, first, they have to select particular images, whether visual, auditory, tactile, and so on, and place them in order. Then they have to translate these images. And while doing it, they and communicating, they have to be able to hold them together in the memory while talking, while giving the labels out. And the same is true about the other way around, when they have to respond to verbal instructions. And of course, it's well known, they have problems. I remember very old papers, research papers. It was in the 1980s, I think. I read the paper, don't remember the author, saying that research paper, that they don't understand, no, feel like, they, whatever. Of course, they don't understand this because it's impossible to translate them into sensory language, but they understand the concept, sensory concept of it. I hope you are with me. You know what I'm trying to say, because it's difficult to use a verbal language and explain what is going on. Because people cannot show you a no, and you cannot see what feel looks like. For example, again, Donna Williams, I learned to use the words know and feel like a blind person uses the word see and a deaf person uses the word hear. And sometimes I could grasp this unseeable, untouchable, I would add unsmellable, but without inner pictures, they would drift away again like wispy clouds. And of course, social experiences. How will you visualize sort of kindness and these greetings? It's impossible, isn't it? How can you translate social experiences into this sensory concept? The solution was found by autistic people, of course. Beautiful metaphors and concrete thinkers. You know that some say, oh, they don't understand metaphors and they don't understand idioms, right? And other stuff. Metaphors, they do understand. Otherwise, they won't be able to understand these abstract concepts. This is a huge difference, idioms and metaphors. For example, it's from Temple Grandin. She learned to convert abstract ideas into pictures as a way to understand them. For example, she visualized concepts such as peace and honesty with symbolic images, like peace as a dove and an Indian peace pipe, or honesty. It is the image of placing one's hand on the Bible in court. It is very clever, isn't it? I'm telling you, they find ways without our help. And now we are moving to verbal language, specific peculiarities of autistic verbal language, because as they say, when they start talking, there is this difference. And this is a list. I will be very quick, but we will start first with autistic muteness. Yes, non-verbal, I mean non-verbal or minimally verbal children and adults, because some start talking later, and some others, they are non-verbal all their lives. And these are two very famous young men. This is Naoki Higashida, who wrote 2 books, I believe. And can you imagine how your life would be if you couldn't talk? If they cannot talk, it doesn't mean they have nothing to say, by the way. And then he writes, I don't know why we can't talk properly, but it's not that we won't talk, it's that we can't talk and we are suffering because of it. All on our own, there is nothing we can do about the problem. And this is, of course, Tito, also a very famous, very intelligent young man. He wrote this book, How Can I Talk If My Lips Don't Move? So what is the cause of autistic muteness? I took it from research explanations, right? Some don't understand speech because sensory, especially auditory processing problems, right? And this is the example by Lucy Blackman. You saw her picture in the beginning. I was about 3 when I realized that I was given instructions, but the individual words were blurring into the fluctuations around me and sometimes being overtaken by following or preceding sounds. Can you imagine what it is like, what a nightmare it is to sort of to work out what was said? Or motor problems. Many have problems with their body control, right? Motor problems. This is from Temple Grandin. I could understand what people said to me, but I could not get my words out. It was like a big stutter, and starting words was very difficult. And this we are talking about children, but autistic muteness can be temporary muteness caused by overload, stress, and anxiety. This is Donna Williams, that she can't articulate what she wanted to say, because of this connection between her tongue, her vocal cords, her jaw, she couldn't control it. And very interesting phenomenon, I think, under extreme, often negative circumstances and non-verbal, either child or adult, could say a complete and original context-appropriate sentence, what some about once every 8 to 10 years, and some have only spoken once or twice in a lifetime. Sort of non-verbal, but in certain circumstances, in certain situations, they can see very, very appropriate sentence, grammatically correct sentence. Why I'm talking about it? Because it's happened. I told you that my son didn't talk till he was 7, and this is absolutely true. And one day, it was when some relatives were taking him for a few days away to give me a chance to sort out some, things at home, because I had a baby daughter at the time. She was 3 months old. And I was packing his suitcase. And my Alyosha was lying in bed. It was daytime. He wasn't asleep or whatever. He was lying in bed and doing his favorite activity. That is, sorry, I was trying to find something to show you, and I lost in a minute. Here it is. He likes to flip something in front of his eyes, and he was lying there doing this, seemingly oblivious to what was going on around him. And I was packing his suitcase, of course, worrying and telling them, I put Alyosha's pajamas here. And in the middle of I do remember I was talking about his pajamas. There were how many of us? 1, 2, 3. 3 adults. We were in this room. We heard, will mommy go with us? At first I thought I was hallucinating. I told you I was praying that start talking, please. I thought it was only me, that I heard clearly articulated sentence, will mama go with us? But there were 3 other adults, and I understood that they heard it as well. It was sort of collective hallucination, if you like, because I saw their jaws dropped. I rushed to him. Honey, darling, what did you say? Say it again. No reaction whatsoever, as if it wasn't here. That's why I believe all these stories when parents say, why can't he can talk, because he said so-and-so, such and such sentence 5 years ago. Why can't he talk? That's what we know, right? That sometimes it happens. We can't explain it yet, or possibly never. So when the child starts to talk, his speech is very specific. It's sort of autistic features in this speech, because verbal language has a different usage for an autistic person. And they seem to acquire language intellectually, not like children learn the language, right, naturally, but intellectually, as an adult would have to learn, say, Japanese. And that's why we have all these features. Very briefly, echolalia. Why I started in the very beginning saying that I focus on autism before DSM-5, because there are articles, research articles, at least one I remember, and I mean, I've got it. I won't tell you details, but anyway, it was to prove, it was published recently, that echolalia is not specific to autism. That echolalia has nothing to do with autism, because, as I said, there are so different criteria now, and as the majority don't sort of show this echolalia, then this research, and not only echolalia, but also pronoun reversal, this paper says, oh, no, it's not autistic feature. The problem is that it is, because in neurotypical development, echolalia is a normal stage of development, but in neurotypical, it is very short period of time, and they continue to develop naturally further. But in autism, some stay at this stage all their lives. Echolalia is the only means available to them. So it can be immediate and delayed echolalia. You know about this, immediate, they repeat, immediately delayed, something they heard a month, 2 years ago. Non-communicative echolalia, and communicative. Non-communicative echolalia, the sensory use of words. It's something they like to say. They can, like my son, he can stay in his bedroom, for example, and say, when he was teenager, he loved the word Timocha, and he was repeating the same word. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. The same word and giggling. It was something. It may be a sensory pleasure, like on the tongue or in the mouth, or just auditory sounds they like to do. But most of the time, communicative function of echolalia, there are several of them, they are communicative. For example, when a child repeats the question, do you want a biscuit? Do you want a biscuit, right? It means I don't understand. Because some children, echolalic children, when they don't understand what was said to them, but they want to show, look, I can mirror you, I can reply without understanding, yes, but I can make this noise too. And then, it means they do want to communicate, they reply to the approach of somebody. Or another function is to aid processing, because sometimes repeating the question or instruction and hearing it again, but with their own voice helps. Sometimes it is means to buy time, because they need time to process. And the most, very clever, it is a request. Can you imagine a child wants a biscuit, for example, right? But he hasn't developed this language. He cannot construct sentences. And he wants this biscuit, and he remembers last time he got it, his mother asked him, do you want a biscuit? So he approaches his mother and says, do you want a biscuit? Meaning, I want a biscuit, right? Yes, so parents, we do understand the meaning. Unfortunately, not all. I was once, a very sad story again, at the opening one small school for autistic children, like a guest, that we were sitting at the front row, and they were opening the school and performance. All children, there were not many of them, it was a small school, but they all were on stage, some were dancing, some were jumping, but it was a beautiful performance, beautiful. At the end of this performance, every child got a bar of chocolate, and they were happy, but one child couldn't unwrap the chocolate. And what he approached one of the people, one of the guests sitting on the first row, not, but that's why I saw it. with this bar of chocolate, showed it to this lady and said, "Do you want chocolate?" Meaning, "I want chocolate, help me." And what did the lady do? Just thank you. You can imagine what happened next, right? The reaction of the child. So it is important to know the meaning of this echolalia function, communicative function. Sophisticated echolalia, it is when adults with Asperger syndrome also they try to disguise their the fact that they don't understand the social conventions, social rules, and whatever. They try to imitate others. And it is called sophisticated echolalia. Many learn how to behave socially because social interaction for them, it is an academic subject. From films or books, journals, magazines, and so on and so forth. Very quickly, pronoun reversal. I want to show you that everything is so logical because we know that it's difficult for them, I and you. My son learned how to separate this I and you. He was about 18 years old only. It is very logical. Why? Do you remember one object, one word, right? One object, one word. It means now I am talking, right? But if somebody approaches me, they say you, right? And what is more, if somebody will discuss me behind my back, they will say she and whatever. It's so illogical. One person, right? And so many words. And that's why it takes them much, much longer. But they do learn it, right? They do learn it, how to use this. Now my son has no problems with these pronouns, are you? But it's not only about pronouns. It's about other words. For example, yesterday, today, tomorrow. Just tell me, how can today become yesterday, tomorrow? Again, very logical questions. I remember this boy was asking his teacher. Extreme literalness, we discussed it. Metaphorical language. And here it is not metaphors, like metaphors. It is special words they use, only their relatives nearest and dearest know the meaning of. It's like then neologisms. They invent their own words. My son, I didn't know the word lipstick, and he invented paint lipstick. Yeah, it's okay. It's understandable. Affirmation by repetition. It's not. It's very difficult for them to understand the concept of agreement, like yes, right? You cannot touch yes, you cannot see yes, you cannot hear. And that's why I say they have to repeat if they want something. Repeating the same question again and again and again. We know that, right? That's very irritating. And what is more, they need this exactly the same answer. And usually it is caused this stress, like something unpredictable in the environment, and they need the same answer because it is predictable. They want to feel safe. And sometimes, if you don't know the right answer and the person like adult, well, like this, it's better not to try to guess. It's better to kick this question back to him or her. For example, you tell me why and whatever, and he will tell you, and he will come down. You know why? Because he will get it. Gestalt will be closed. He will get this answer. The situation becomes predictable. Demanding the same verbal scenario again. It is this. I'm trying to be to go quicker, and again, it is because Gestalt. Everything should be like following one thing after the other. Poor control, autistic discourse style. It's sometimes they sound very formal. Sort of you always sort of see these differences in the expression. Poor control of prosody, right? Sometimes it is high, low, loud, whisper, and so on and so forth. One of the myths that they always say what they want to say. Rubbish. No. And this, you don't believe me, it's your choice. Listen to Naoki Higashida. Please don't assume that every single word we say is what we intended. Even with straightforward yes or no questions, we make mistakes. I can never say what I really want to. Instead, verbal junk hasn't got anything to do with anything comes pouring out of my mouth. And Donna Williams says she had to drink this black tea so many times, and she hated it because, you know, when they ask her, do you want black tea? And she couldn't process it in a few seconds. So she said yes. And so that's why check all the time, check yes and no. They do not mean yes and no. And to help them, we need sensory perceptual assessment. It means to adjust the environment. Because children cannot learn if they are bombarded with confusing, irritating stimuli. They are unable to screen out. If there is this perfumes as well, it's not only about noise and whatever. To identify the optimum rate of incoming information the person can cope with. Because sometimes we talk too much, and it is too much. This person, for example, one sentence, short sentence is enough. The other one, yes, he can understand more. And for those who can't cope with this, a minimal speech approach is very beneficial, right? Especially for children who have no or little understanding of verbal language, and it can be used in combination with other nonverbal communication system, objects, photos, and so on, depending on the child's inner language. And please, only 2 concrete words, which are absolutely keywords, relevant to the situation. Because I visited some residentials quite a few years ago, and the staff, perhaps they wanted to show me their respect for their clients or whatever. But, you know, they were mostly nonverbal adults. And they say, John, will you be so kind as to, and something else. Look, you lost John on the first word, John. And then it was blah, 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 blah. Because, see, it's better to know this. Use only and connecting words exactly with the situation at the time the child attends to it. For example, you can say, right? It's Tito describes this. He was looking at the sky, and then he heard the word banana, and he was looking at the cloud, and he decided that clouds are called bananas. But the next day he was looking at the clouds, somebody said table, and he decided, okay, some clouds are called bananas, others are called table. Then so always look, sort of try to detect where the attention, the child's attention goes. Then identify the interaction style, direct versus indirect communication, because some, yes, who are withdrawn, and yes, it's important to be more direct. But for those who cannot tolerate direct communication because they cannot tolerate eye contact, please don't do it. Please don't insist on this, because it is very cruel. And it's better to start from this minimal speech approach and speaking aloud to oneself, to the wall, to the tree, to the window, whatever, occasionally mentioning the child's name. And only then you will start speaking in the direction of the child. You see what is going on. If there is their peripheral perception is very good, they can hear you better when you sort of, there is no eye contact between you, because eye contact and they lose everything. That is why if you want to say something to your child, it's better to talk to the wall, right? And then gradually, yes, you will talk to the direction of the child. Yes, gradually, yes, it will be communication face to face, but not necessarily eye contact. But please remember that, because sometimes teachers make mistake, you know, again, break in a school, all children are outside for a break, one child sitting there, rocking in the corner, and the teacher and assistant they decided they will talk in the classroom. Bad mistake, bad mistake, because they thought the child wouldn't understand, and they were right. Here they were right. The child possibly wouldn't, but the child would be able to repeat everything verbatim, and when this is triggered, and you don't know where it will happen and to whom I know so many secrets of my son's teachers, by the way. The only thing is, when he was telling, not me, it was like something triggered this, and he started talking about personal private life or whatever. We were standing in a queue in the supermarket, or other people were very much interested. I wasn't very happy. So that's why, or it's better not also to sing praises like a child draws a circle, hurrah, round of applause. Or you know what you do when you start doing it like directly and too much emotional, and the child will never repeat it again because it is too painful. The better thing is to discuss the child's work when the child is in the same room. Discuss, I mean discuss, perform. Like, for example, you're telling your assistant, Mary, she was so good today. She did this, and that. I'm so proud of her. Mary will be very happy, and she will try to make you proud again, because you won't sort of bombard her with all this, your emotions and eye contact. Okay, to identify this preferred sensory channel, it means which language the child speaks. Visual systems, right, as I said already, they do not work with all children. Please remember this, okay? Visual timetables also not with, they would learn, but it will be like not what you wanted to learn. Like Donna Williams said, the PEX symbol for play that involves two figures with hands throwing a ball between them was to me a spider. And the picture for dinner looks like a face with a black eye. Yes, she learned when she is given a picture with a black eye, time for lunch. It's like, please remember they have their own interpretation. Tactile language is very good. You saw this boy already, right? Through touch. By the way, we taught him to read and mathematics as well, given plastic letters. It works. And they can learn about many activities by feeling objects in these activities. And to make it more predictable, for example, that it will be lunchtime soon, you can give a child a plate or spoon, like instead of a picture of this, or towel before bath night, and so on and so forth. And it is like communication, not with pictures, but via objects, because objects may cover several languages. It is not only visual, it's also tactile. And when you touch it, it is kinesthetic when you move it. It is auditory when you tap, olfactory when you smell. So if teaching them the names of these objects gives the child these objects to feel, and so on and so forth. But please remember that objects can be communicatively loaded. They, I call it written languages of objects. You haven't written these messages, but objects sort of tell the child what to do. Because once, it's a well-known story, the mother was taking a child to school, and as usual in her car, but when she turned from the main road to school, and the child knew the road and everything, suddenly the child started kicking the seat in front of him in the car and started shouting and whatever. This mother, yes, it took her a few minutes, but she detected. She was a good detective, by the way. She detected what happened. She forgot to remove the beach bag from the back seat. And this beach bag told the child that they were going to the beach. But the child was taken to school instead. Sort of the objects, sometimes they shout at children what to do. And sometimes it's really helpful because, you know, our house is tidy, relatively, right, tidy, but not because of me, it's because of my son. Because if my Max stands somewhere by the phone, not in the kitchen, he will take everything. He will pick up all this. You know, the objects tell him what to do. Very, very convenient. But the use of objects should reflect the level of literalness the child has. And objects may have different meaning. And be careful, there are synonyms of objects. I will tell you about them a bit later. Kinesthetic, it's about movement, but also about gestures, right? And sort of some I have no time to tell you everything. So that's why, see, when you teach the child the word jump, jump with them. You say, go to the left, turn him to the left. You know, teach the labels, the language via movements. And translate everything into kinesthetic. When you are doing something, comment what you are doing. Comment verbally, minimal speech, but still comment what you are doing. And by the way, teach them to draw, to write. Yes, some children wouldn't even hold a pencil in the hand. My son didn't. He refused, you know, and his motor skills, fine motor skills, were not good. I was holding, I put pencil into his hand, and then I was holding and I was like drawing with him circles, squares, triangles, then letters. Yes, it took about 5-6 weeks. Then he could trace himself what I wrote with it. Now he can write, yes, what he can write, and his handwriting is not good, but now he can draw and write himself. So this one is very important. Sign language versus mime signing. I know because many organizations use Makaton, right, or sign language, and it doesn't work for many people with nonverbal, especially people, adults. Like why? And many of them, like Donna Williams and others, write about it. Look, because sign language is very linguistic. For example, these are two pictures. The first one, to sign of milk. I know only two signs, so I don't know Makaton. And Donna, remember, they are very literal, right? This, Donna says, for me, if I see this, I would translate it, I want to see the cow milked. Yes, she said, for her, this movement, this mime was better. Yes, it can mean any drink, but at least you will know that Donna wants a drink and you will offer her milk, tea, coffee, juice, and so on. Or take this sign, this next one, tap twice biscuit, right? Okay, I know the origin of this sign because it is sailors, right, in the past and whatever. But there is nothing biscuity in this sign. That's why it's better to start miming. And many of them, they start using mimes without any learning from where, like this. Yes, it can mean the child or adult wants to eat something, but at least you will know, and you will offer biscuit, banana, I don't know, sandwich, and so on and so forth. And another disadvantage of this Makaton or sign language. Can you imagine? Okay, those, because I know only two, yes, a few more signs, and that is it. But adults go into the pub, for example, right, or cafe, going to the counter and showing, like, how will he be interpreted? If he shows that he wants to drink and some snack, he will be served. So please think about it. It's very important. And nearly there, it is about written communication. Whatever visual system is used, it is important to combine it with a written word. Even if you use pictures, right? For example, picture ball, big picture ball, and small text, ball. Then eventually make picture smaller, smaller, and smaller, and the word bigger, bigger, and bigger. Trust me, I taught my son to read and write in 2 languages when they see it, because these letters, they do not run away. Like Naoki Higashida said, letters and symbols are much easier for us to grasp than spoken words, and we can be with them whenever we want. That's why written language is very, very important, and pictures may go all together, because now we don't use pictures at all. And perhaps, right, all this communication via typing, right, nonverbal people typing, and many don't believe it, that it is whatever works. But listen to those. This is Carly, a Canadian girl, was typing. That's what she writes. Communication via typing was not easy. It takes her months and months to learn. It was not a miracle. And this is Naoki Higashida's 2 books. This is Tito's. Learning to write was the most important skill that I acquired. Sure, it took a long time before I could finally start communicating via written text on my own, but on the first day when my mom supported my writing hand in hers, I acquired a new way of interacting with others. Okay, so we have no time for this, I believe, right? If anyone can tell me. Okay.
Yeah, we got a few more minutes if you want to wrap up, and then we've got a few questions.
Yes, I will wrap it up. So this is important, the emotional aspect of the word, sort of remember about this, because sometimes, no, it will be too upsetting. Okay, teaching communication, social skills approach, and of course, eye contact, never force eye contact. They learn to look between your eyes, on your forehead, chin, or whatever, it's okay. And to teach them everything, facial expressions, body language, use of interpersonal space, and so on and so forth. Rules are important. Rules should be introduced in all schools, because autistic individuals find the rules very useful. Sometimes they invent their own rules if the rules are not provided. This is from Temple Grandin, and she says, since people with autism and Asperger's are emotionally immature, they must have basic morality pounded into their heads when they are small children. Some Asperger children, whatever sort of rules are important. But it's not only about for these Asperger children, it's for everyone. If they know what is expected, because sometimes it's like you go to a different country, to Japan, for example, and their behaviors are very different, social interaction are very different. And you start looking at everyone trying to imitate or whatever. It's better to provide them here. You always say thank you and please. And you don't have to teach them like, say thank you before, say it, please. No, do it yourself. For example, my son, I take him to the day center 4 days a week. And the staff always say, he is the most polite man we've ever seen, because he imitates me. Whatever, he brings me coffee from downstairs here. I said, thank you, Alyosha. And you're welcome, he replies. If it is around him, they will learn the culture of politeness. It's good. And you cannot do this, but you can do that, and so on and so forth. Remember, like I'm saying, going to a country, Japan, China, I don't know, Venezuela, whatever, you wouldn't sort of behave the way I want to behave. I am authentic me. Sorry. No. We have to live together. We are all together. We are social creatures, social animals, if you like, right? We have to think about how our behavior will be taken by others, whether we will harm others or not. So this is important. Rules are very important. And this is the end. The role of professionals should be to help people use their natural processes to learn and grow. I always say, work with autism, not against it. That is why use their strengths, like what they can do, and don't force eye contact because it is uncomfortable. They will learn to look at you. Probably it always means learning and teaching translation skills to enable people with different communication systems to communicate with each other. So this is the role of professionals and parents, perhaps, and other social services, because remember, they speak different languages. And this is my language on communication issues in autism and Asperger syndrome. And it is research-based, a lot of whatever. It is the second edition. The first was this one. And this one is for parents. It's like becoming a professional parent, learning to speak autistic. And just a minute from current slide. This one. It is also research-based, but it is very personal. I share tips. I sort of, why they do this, what we can do with that, and explaining, like I was explaining today, for example. And if you want more information on this topic, this is my blog. And this, I spent time to find this about communication. There are more, about 100 posts, but these are dealing with communication and language. If you are interested, you can find it there. And this, my YouTube channel, gosh, started whatever, but this is the address. Always difficult when you start something new. It is always difficult. I am a bit it's difficult for me to talk like this. There are other good books: Sensory Perception in Autism and the Ages of the Known World, Autism and Spirituality. And this is also the first one in the series of Autism Becoming a Professional Parent. This is about reconstruction of the sensory world of autism. What to do, what not to do, how to do it, how to provide sensory environment, how to address sensory problems, and so on forth and so forth. So I do hope some information was useful. Thank you for your attention. Sorry it took so long.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Bogdashina. That was a beautiful presentation. Thank you for your perspectives as a parent and professional. We do have a few questions.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, we have a few questions. Steve, did you want to jump in and say anything while you're here? Oh, you're muted.
I can't hear you, Steve.
I just want to thank Olga for your talk. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of months, and once we scheduled it, and yeah, it was a joy to listen to you.
So you haven't been disappointed, have you?
No.
No, because always I want to give some useful information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we have a lot of comments in the comment sections saying thank you, and that it was very, very useful information.
Oh, good.
So thank you so much. We have probably 5 questions, 5 or 6 questions. Okay. So we have a few people asking specifically about how to find out their autistic language, what's going to be the best way to communicate with an individual, especially if they're nonverbal or non-expressive.
Nonverbal, right? That is what I'm saying. You have to. We started from the middle, language communication. We have to start from sensory, right? I tried to sort of introduce a bit of sensory information into this, but which channel is the most reliable? It is a very good question. Listen, we have channels, right? They are all interconnected. If one channel is affected, other channels will become affected too. Like my son, I thought his hearing, he was so hypersensitive. I am hypersensitive hearing. It's just impossible. He will across the road. He will hear what is going on, and I thought that's why he suffered, and that's why he couldn't talk and whatever. I brought him to Donna Williams. It helped me so much. He was running around us. He was nonverbal. She said it is his vision. check. There are special centers. And I know in England, at least, I definitely know several opticians, you know, they check vision on color of lenses and whatever. It helps, by the way. And they can check as well. And you also try to ask drawing something, because I found out about fragmented vision of my son. I want to, I can't find it now, but drawing of people, like hand there, leg there, you know what I mean? All in fragments. So his visual perception was absolutely destroyed. When you address the main problem, right, you have to find out. That's why I recommend this book, I mean, sensory perception. In this one, a big one, right? I mean, I prefer parents read this, it is more understandable. There is this questionnaire at the end of the book, sensory questionnaire to find out. Because see, even I was mistaken thinking about hearing, but it was his vision. So you have to be detective. And if you find centers to check who knows how to check, or here I met in England, I met several opticians. They can do this. The next one.
Thank you. That was a wonderful answer. I have a few questions about kind of dealing with echolalia, specifically how to comfort when it goes on for hours.
Or you tell me, yeah, I know what it is, right? For hours. No, but it's a huge. Maybe we meet again somewhere for 10 minutes for answering questions like this. You see, echolalia, as I said, many functions, right, of echolalia, but sometimes he asks, especially questions, the same question again and again, or just what drives me mad, you know, my son. It's a good day today. It is a good day today. And he will say it again and again and running around. You know, yes, I know. It means he's anxious. I can say it. He's anxious. And I have to check predictability. Does he know what will happen next? Does he know, is he prepared, or is he unwell? You know, if anything can, this anxiety can be triggered by anything, because when they repeat it again and again, they cannot stop. I know what it is. It's difficult. By the way, if you heard about intense world syndrome, right? Macram and his team in Switzerland, you know, they say that sensory problems is sort of at the root, not only problems, but, you know, sensory issues. And they said that if this early intervention starts before the age of 6, you can help a lot. And they will start, will become very, very high functioning. 6, they said. Otherwise, it goes like a loop. You know, the brain sort of closes this loop and they studied. Yes, I know what it is. But again, there are several reasons you have to, again, be detective.
Yeah, sounds like detective work is the most
Oh,
important.
yeah.
The most important part.
And I will, again, I always say, whatever autism is, it is never boring, right? You
Yeah,
have
that's a good
to
phrase.
be like this, yes. But whatever, for me, it is my life. Yes.
Well, nobody wants a boring life, so that's great. So we have a few more questions kind of related to speech therapy. So I feel they may be similar responses, but if you have any other clarifying content, feel free to share. So we have another question specifically from a parent asking how helpful speech therapy might be to a nonverbal, for their nonverbal toddler. Getting the sense that they want to talk, but they're not ready to talk. If that makes sense.
So I haven't had any personal experience with speech therapist. I will explain why. When I took my nonverbal son, he was 5, 4 or 5, like speech therapist. It was our first and last visit because he broke something there. He threw something there, he broke everything. So we didn't go. And that's why I worked with him all the time. And as I said, what helps. I described how to connect verbal label with whatever object and experience. Again, I will, reading and writing, trust me, reading and writing is so important. And reading stories, bedtime stories, right? I said my daughter is 3 years younger than Alyosha, and I was a single mother, and every night I was reading them a story, bedtime. She was listening, looking at pictures, whatever. He was running around. He wouldn't sit next to us. Sometimes he came, whatever. Yes, and when I started sort of doing these drawings, like putting pencil into his hand and doing it, when he sat with me 30 seconds, I celebrated. It was a victory. 30 seconds, if you do the same, if, they need routine. They are autistic. If you introduce routine, I don't know, Monday, 5 o'clock, we do this. And every Monday, however you feel, doesn't matter. You should do this. Now, I do classes with him, right? We read in 2 languages, right? In 2 languages, and because I every day, he's waiting for me. Because before this, I knew it would be late. I said, look, today we won't do Spanish, we started learning Spanish as well. And why not? No, Buddha. Even if he's tired, whatever, no. We have so many classes. We started Qigong, then music, each of them 15 minutes. Don't think I am sort of like, sometimes I don't want. Then 2 languages, reading, grammar, writing, reading, grammar, writing. And then he does Spanish most himself now sometimes. And then diary, writing diary. Whatever he writes, first it was like, I didn't understand anything, but today is Sunday, and the date, I had sandwich for my lunch, something like this, with hundreds of spelling mistakes, but we are learning. I'm doing classes every day with him. While I'm still here, God, I have to give him as much as I can. I'm doing my best. Sorry, I haven't had experience with speech therapist. I said it was the only visit. Yes, I had. I mean, I wasn't quick enough to stop him. There was this like whatever glass, big glass. When we left, the glass was on the floor, broken, completely broken. So, but there are a lot of things. I do sort of advise you to look at books and whatever. Better for parents. They are cheap and they are up to the point without all this research references. They are based on research. And yeah, that is it. Another question, last question?
Yes, sure thing. We've got one specific about, have you ever worked with gestalt language processing? I may be saying that incorrectly.
What gesture?
Gestalt, Gestalt, language processing. Seems that it uses phrases instead of words, kind of like.
No, but echolalia, they say phrases, but this is one word for them. Like it is gestalt. Yes, gestalt. Yeah, I didn't talk about it. I had no time to explain that the echolalia and demanding the same verbal scenario are gestalt. Yeah, I know. I know what it is, and I worked sort of directly with my son. No, I didn't take him to any therapist. After my very sort of negative experiences and their negative experiences, yes, because we break everything and whatever. I do everything myself.
A lot of things are made to be broken. So
yeah, but not everyone thinks like this. But anyway,
yeah.
as long ago, it was 35 years ago. So hopefully they forgive us by now.
Well, fantastic. I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have. And thank you so much for everything that you've shared. That was our last question for you. I'll give it to Dr. Edelson for a few more comments.
Again, thank you, Olga, for your time and effort, and for those who have been watching and would like to watch it again or share with others. Megan said that the video will be up within, what, 24 hours?
Yes, yeah, should be up later this evening.
Yeah, so that'd be great. So again, thank you, Olga, and hopefully we'll just keep in touch, okay?